What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel. Earlier today, I gave you my final week review for the Big Ten. Today, I'm going to give you my final Big Ten power rankings. I'm not going to do one after Champions Week because, A, I'm moving into doing, if you haven't heard the news yet, what are you doing? I'm moving to cover all 130 FBS teams for the rest of the season because bowl games are coming up and, of course, the college football playoff. So all next week, I'm going to be doing stuff for that. You don't want to miss that. Also, I'm just not going to be doing one for Champions Week. I'm just done covering the Big Ten. It's considered the postseason. So this is my Big Ten power rankings after Week 8 and after the regular season. There were a lot of hard decisions to make here, but this is where I'm finally placing teams. It's done. It's finalized. These are my thoughts on where all of these teams should lie. We're going to kick it off at the bottom, and I couldn't decide between two teams. Two teams were very, very close to the bottom, although I do feel like this team was just less impressive than the team above them, and also they have just fired their head coach. That is the Illinois Fighting Illini, dropping one spot after the loss to Northwestern to last place in the Big Ten after losing to Northwestern, like I just said, and also firing their head coach, Lovie Smith. So Lovie Smith is out at Illinois. They're going to have to find a new head coach for Champions Week. It'll probably be in interim, but then for next season, they're going to have to find a new guy to come in and replace Lovie Smith. I like Lovie Smith. I wish him the best wherever he may go. Might could be a coordinator somewhere or a head coach at a lower level program, but Illinois said it just wasn't working out, so they ended up firing him. Taking a look at where they finished in the Big Ten for the regular season. Not great stats, just not a great showing this season for Illinois. Now, I will give them some of the benefit of the doubt. They were dealing with some COVID problems, but especially in these past couple games, Illinois has just not played well. Against Iowa, they got to a good start, but they let it slip, and then just a horrible showing here against Northwestern. Illinois is very close to the team that you're going to see ahead here of Illinois. But I had to give Illinois last place here. I was overall disappointed with the way they played the season. I thought they could have made some noise in the power rankings, but turns out it just was not the year for Illinois. Could not get anything going on either side of the ball, and that is why Illinois finishes in last place in the Big Ten. But not far behind are the Michigan State Spartans, or I should say not far ahead. They dropped 2 spots after losing to Penn State. But the reason that Michigan State is higher than Illinois is, A, they have a first-year head coach in Mel Tucker, so given some time, and although the stats look not great for Michigan State, especially among where they rank in the Big Ten, Peyton Thorne looked really good, and I think the future for the Michigan State quarterback room is bright. I think they have a bright future there in that room. I talked about it earlier today in my week review. They have a very, very bright future with that kid in Peyton Thorne. Now, again, this Michigan State team just could not hold on to the football. Turnovers plagued them all year long. And in games where they didn't turn over the football, a.k.a. Michigan and Northwestern, they ended up coming away with wins in those scenarios. So that's going to be something that you want to address, not only going into Champions Week, but also in the offseason. I don't know if Michigan State, they're probably not going to get invited to go play a bowl game. Bowl games can invite pretty much whoever they want. I don't know that anyone's going to want to invite Michigan State, maybe, but I don't see that happening. They're slated to possibly play Nebraska in Champions Week, which could be an interesting matchup. But for me, the Michigan State Spartans are low on the list. They got to address the turnover problem, but that future at quarterback does look bright. They are at number 13. Michigan does not move from their spot at number 12 after the game gets canceled. Michigan dealing with COVID problems for the past couple games, so I give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. We haven't seen this team play in quite some time, but if you recall, Michigan just not a great showing this season at all. Very, very disappointing, among one of the most disappointing teams in 2020. I might make a video about that. Stay tuned for that in the offseason. But disappointing for Michigan State, disappointing for Michigan coming out, just not playing how they want. This Don Brown defense is among the worst in the Big Ten, if not among the worst in college football. Just did not look like the Michigan team we'd all come to expect. Now, we expected them to take a step back, but maybe not this much of a step back. So does this put Jim Harbaugh's job in question? It talks like he might get an extension, actually, so we'll have to see what transpires with that. There's going to be a meeting between the AD and Jim Harbaugh slated later, I'm not exactly sure when, of where the team is going, a possible extension if that gets brought up. I don't know what Michigan's going to do with Jim Harbaugh. What I do know is that Michigan had a disappointing year now going into Champions Week. We hope they can play and get over their COVID numbers. But Michigan finishes 12th for me in the Big Ten. At number 11 was a team I was really high on coming into this year, but they just did not play well at all in those last 3 games. Their game against Indiana ended up getting canceled, and they did drop a spot from last week. Purdue finishes at number 11 for me. Just wasn't as explosive as I thought they were going to be. Now, they still have some really good playmakers. Of course, David Bell, Rondale Moore, guys like that. And I absolutely love Jack Plummer. I thought he was going to be a really good quarterback this year. Turns out Aiden O'Connell was the guy. Then he got hurt, so Jack Plummer had to step in. And I think it was the defense that let Purdue down late in the season. The offense was clicking. The offense had some good moments. But the defense just ultimately let them down in the past couple games. Didn't get to play their rivalry game. Slated, I believe, to match up with Rutgers in a rematch in Champions Week. Could be an interesting game. Again, I won't cover it. You guys can watch it if you would like. But Purdue finishes at 11 for me. For me, Purdue was a disappointment this year as well. I expected Purdue to be a lot better than they were this year. But again, with such the year as 2020, things are hard to predict. Purdue finishes at number 11. The Nebraska Cornhuskers dropped 2 spots after losing to Minnesota 17-24. And when you look at where they finished on the Big Ten, it again was not a great season for Nebraska. But they're up this high because I feel like they improved in their past couple games. They got better, and although they came up on the short end in that Minnesota game, I still feel like they played a really good game. The defense was just not there for Minnesota in that game. Now, Adrian Martinez got better. He's a junior this year. Should be back next year maybe, unless he gets drafted to the NFL, which I don't see happening. But next year, Nebraska's got a hard decision to make at quarterback, whether you go with Luke McCaffrey or you go whether you go with Luke McCaffrey or Adrian Martinez. It's going to be a battle, but Nebraska's got a lot of young guys coming in that this Husker program is really, really excited about. But again, lots of guys going to be leaving, especially on the defensive side. Nebraska's going to have a rebuild again next year, and when will this Nebraska team finally get back on their feet and get back to the Nebraska from 2 decades ago? I don't know. I don't know if I can answer that question as of right now. Scott Frost still seems to be the guy. I don't know how much longer he's going to last here at Nebraska, but I would still give Scott Frost a couple years. He's gotten his players. He's going to get his players. It's just a matter of time before Nebraska starts to get good. Now, you might be thinking, well, they're 2-5. Why do you have them at number 10? Because I think there is so much potential here for this Nebraska team. Slated to play Michigan State in Champions Week. Could be an interesting game. Nebraska is at number 10. I really like where this Cornhusker team is at. Might get an invitation to a bowl game, but they have to get through Champions Week first. How about the Rutgers Scarlet Knights finishing with 3 wins this season? I think that's more than pretty much everyone expected out of this Rutgers team. 3-5 after a thrilling win against Maryland in overtime. They jump all the way from last place all the way up into the single digits where they have not been all year. Give yourself a round of applause, Rutgers. You are finally a solid football team. I really like this Rutgers team. I like Bo Melton. I like Shameen Jones. I like Noah Vedral. I like Isaiah Pacheco. I like a lot of guys on the defensive side as well, including Bo Melton's brother playing cornerback. There's just so much to like about this Rutgers team and where they're heading. Now, they are going to lose a lot of guys to either the draft, maybe the transfer portal, or just to plain old seniority next year. But with Greg Schiano at the helm at this Rutgers program, things are looking up for the Rutgers Scarlet Knights. You see where they finished the regular season in the Big Ten. Not the best numbers and not what you want as a football team, but some pretty solid numbers for Rutgers here. Slated again to play Purdue in Champions Week. Could be a fairly interesting game. It's a rematch. Rutgers won the regular season competition. Going to be interesting to see how this Rutgers program plays in Champions Week if that game ends up getting played. I know Purdue's been canceling, and Rutgers maybe has a shot to get into a bowl game for the first time since Greg Schiano was there for his first tenure A lot to like about this Rutgers team. They're at number 9. Not a whole lot to like on the Maryland side of things, though. No Taulia Tagovailoa. Lots of yards per game, but just couldn't convert it in the points. And much like the case with Minnesota, which we'll talk about in a little bit, their defense let them down in this game. It was a battle between Rutgers, but they ended up losing in overtime, just missed a field goal, and they dropped 2 spots, finishing the regular season 2-3, slated to play Minnesota again in Champions Week, again, if that game ends up getting played. But Maryland, lots to like on the offensive side. You wonder if Taulia is going to get back up there. I don't know whether this is a disappointing season or a good season for Maryland. I think it was a pretty average season. It was somewhere in between. Maryland definitely improved from where they have been in years past under Mike Locksley, and I think Mike Locksley has secured his job, but Taulia is going to grow next year, as are guys like Dante Demas, Jake Funk, if they end up coming back. I'm not sure what the seniority factor is there. I don't know the years of those guys. All I know is Taulia probably is coming back, and that's pretty much all I know about Maryland returning. But as for Champions Week, you get Minnesota again, a chance to beat them again to improve the 500. Maybe you get to a bowl game, I don't know. But this Maryland team, I think, has kind of declined from their potential. For me, they're at number 8, middle of the pack. Also towards the middle of the pack, I have Wisconsin. And while they might have a good defense, their offense has been lackluster in the past couple games. I talked about it earlier today. But 20 combined points in their last 3 games, that is not it at all. They dropped 2 spots to number 7, and this is where they're going to finish the season for me. This team had so much more potential. Of course, Jack Cohn getting hurt, but Graham Mertz playing out of his mind in the first 2 games and just couldn't get anything going in the next 2. A disappointing showing for Wisconsin this year. They look to turn it around in Champions Week when they get to play Penn State, who is one of the hottest teams in the Big Ten right now, up there with Iowa on a 3-game win streak. Could be a fairly interesting game rematchup, I believe, the 2017 or 2018 Big Ten championship game. Going to be a fun one there in Champions Week, but Wisconsin just couldn't seem to stymie Iowa's offense and couldn't get anything going against their defense. It's going to be a tough task for Wisconsin against Penn State if that's who they end up playing. You'll notice I don't have the matchups just because I won't be covering them. But Wisconsin, again, a disappointing year for the Badgers. They dropped 2 spots to number 7. But speaking of Penn State, they jump up 3 spots all the way up to number 6. So they're starting to get back to where they were in the preseason. Not quite there yet, as they are 3-5. But I think Penn State has done well for themselves in the past couple games. Look at where they rank in the Big Ten, not where everyone thought they were going to be. However, some pretty solid stats here for Penn State. Was able to get 3 straight wins against Michigan, Rutgers, and Michigan State to close out the season. Again, those were 3 winnable games for Penn State, and they were able to win all 3 of them. I've been impressed with the way this Penn State team has played. I was disappointed through the first 5 games, but they were able to persevere through that and probably even save James Franklin's job. James Franklin might have been in jeopardy if Penn State would have gone 0-8 or 1-7. But they went going 3-5, building momentum for that matchup against Wisconsin, most likely in Champions Week. Again, as of recording this, I have not seen anything about Champions Week matchup, although we can only assume they're going to play Wisconsin just because that's where they match up in the standings. Very, very disappointing season for Penn State all around, but they've turned it around late in the season. For me, they finish at number 6. Well, the Golden Gophers and Penn State Nittany Lions were very close, but I ended up giving the edge to Minnesota just because they had the better record. Not because I feel like Minnesota would beat Penn State right now, but just because of the record and the way that they played that game against Nebraska. The defense has plagued Minnesota all year long, and it actually showed up and played a good game against Nebraska. The defense stepped up, made some big plays, and with Rashad Bateman out, this team's offense persevered with guys like Mo Ibrahim and Chris Autman-Bell. Tanner Morgan played great against Nebraska, but all around, you got to think it's a disappointing season for Minnesota. I know they were losing a ton of guys on defense, but their offensive production was going to win them some games as it did. But you expected the defense to just be a little bit better. I expected more out of Minnesota this year. For me, it's a disappointing season for Minnesota, but all around, not a bad showing this year, especially because it's 2020. They had COVID issues and all of this crazy, wacky stuff. Disappointing year, but for me, Minnesota played well in their past couple of games. They're finishing at number 5. Now, the top four, you're not going to see a lot of movement, if any, but all these top four teams are really, really something. The Iowa Hawkeyes finish at number 4 after a dominant win against Wisconsin, finishing second in the Big Ten West. They're going to get to face a team we're going to see a little later here in my power rankings. This team dropped their first 2 games, and I was telling everyone, yep, this is Iowa now. Iowa taking a step back. They're going to take time to develop this young quarterback, and everything is just going to have to try to work out next year for Iowa. But they ended up winning their next game, and I thought, okay, Iowa's got some momentum. And no, they ended up winning their next 6 games after the close loss to Northwestern. Great, crazy run for Iowa. The hottest team in the Big Ten, in my opinion, playing some really good football right now. Tyler Goodson, Mekhi Sargent running the ball well. Petrus has just gotten better and better and better each game. Future looks bright for the Iowa Hawkeyes, but a Big Ten Champions Week matchup looming with Indiana. That's going to be a very interesting game. I'm not going to be covering it, but it is another interesting game that is happening this week. Iowa finishes the season strong, 6-2, and at number 4. But just ahead of them, they have the head-to-head win and 1 less loss, and the Big Ten West title to cap it all off. The Northwestern Wildcats will play in the Big Ten championship game. They're second, with their first coming in 2018, and they will face the same team in Ohio State, looking to spoil the Buckeyes' hopes for the college football playoff. Now, their defense, one of the best in the Big Ten, if not the best in the Big Ten, and if not one of the best defenses in the entire country. But where this Northwestern team lacks is the offense. Now, they exploded for 400-plus rushing yards, I do believe, in their past game. I talked about it earlier today, but overall, Northwestern has got to find some offensive stride if they want to beat this Ohio State team. The defense is not going to be able to stop Justin Fields drive after drive after drive unless they play exceptionally well. But this Northwestern offense has just got to find some rhythm. They've been finding rhythm in the past couple of games. Michigan State was a bad game. Overall, just not a great game. Not really a whole lot of offensive rhythm there. Sorry, I lied to you guys. But the offense seemed to flow nicely in this game against Illinois. They're going to need that to carry over if they want a shot at a Big Ten title. They finished the season for me at number 3. Indiana finishes the season at number 2 for me. They finished 6-1, just like Northwestern after their game against Purdue did get canceled. This Indiana team, I'm surprised there's no playoff talk, but I absolutely get it. No Big Ten title. No one really knows who Indiana is, but Tom Allen in this group has played exceptionally well. Michael Penix going to be back next year. I believe he's going to be back next year, pretty much guaranteed. This Indiana team is going to be good again next year. Now, they're losing a lot of weapons. But I do believe Ty Farfogel may be coming back. I don't know. We're going to have to see. Again, I'm not sure on seniority on all those guys. However, Indiana has played well under Jack Tuttle as well, able to get the win against Wisconsin. Now the game against Purdue got canceled, but if they can get over their COVID humps, they get a great game against Iowa in Champions Week. That's going to be a beauty to watch. Can't wait to tune into that one. Possibly I might be watching other conference championship games, but definitely a game that may or may not be worth to watch there. Probably going to be worth to watch. If you guys have nothing better to do, you could go watch that game or the Big Ten Championship or other championship games or whatever. But this Indiana team is for real. I've been saying it all year long. They're underrated, they're underrated, they're underrated. And even when they seem to do really well and seem to be on top of the world, they are still underrated. This Indiana team is for real. They are number 2. But, of course, you know what this means. The Ohio State Buckeyes finish at number 1 with a record of 5-0, and because of the Big Ten rule change, qualify for the Big Ten championship game. One of the best offenses in the entire country. Now, the defense could use a little bit of work. Not the best Ohio State defense that we've seen in previous years, but I do believe that it can be good enough to win them a national championship game. Now, there are a lot of factors to factor in here for Ohio State. Just a lot of improvements need to be made on that side of the ball. However, I feel like they can do it. Got a Big Ten championship game looming with Northwestern. That game looks like it's going to be played. Ohio State should get into the college football playoff if they beat Northwestern. They clearly are one of the best 4 teams in the entire country. Again, I'll talk about that more with the week that is soon to be following. But Ohio State moving, motoring along to the Big Ten championship game and possibly to the college football playoff. For me, they finished the season as the clear #1 choice in the Big Ten. And that is going to wrap up my coverage of the Big Ten Conference for the 2020 college football season. I hope you guys enjoyed my coverage of this conference. You Big Ten fans and college football fans out there, I hope you learned something from this. But now it's time to shift focus to the big picture, the college football playoff and conference championship week. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Also consider subscribing if you are brand new to the channel, or you just enjoy my content, turn on the notification bell so you do not miss an upload. And you can join Tailgate Nation. Also leave a comment down below. You can tell me your thoughts on this video, and please share this video with everyone you know. I'm trying to go to the channel as big as possible, so please share this video with everyone you know who likes college football as much as you and me. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I will see all of you guys probably on Monday or Tuesday with a college football, the big picture college football, probably playoff scenario video. We'll have to wait and see. I might make a video determining the plan or whatever. But I will see all you guys in the next video. Goodbye.